Welcome back to this episode 20 of the Footy Book Photographer. Next episode, we'll be celebrating our 21st birthday. But in this one, we're at part 8 of the 9 keys to building a sustainable, successful, profitable business. And we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about 2 subjects today. We're going to talk about outsourcing. I'm going to talk about team building. Let's start with team building. Janine, talk to us about, because you mentioned the last podcast about pizza days, right? And you made me hungry, so we had to take a break between the recording of the 2 podcasts, because I had to go and grab some pizza. But talk to us about team building and how you do that in your business and the various things you do.
Sure, Ronan. So we are a children's photography-based studio. And so I like to keep things fun. We keep things fun for the kids that come through the studio, and I like to keep things fun for the team as well. Plus, I know you make fun of this, that you think Americans are just Americans and we don't have any ethnic backgrounds, but I'm Italian. I'm mostly Italian, right? So my family has always dined, like eating is a big thing for us. And so I've always felt that when people dine together and enjoy a meal together, that it brings people closer. And so it's part of my Italian upbringing. It's what we always did. And it's how I learned to show love was with food, which is probably why most of my family might have a little bit of a weight problem. But I do the same thing with my team. So I feel like if we dine together, then it brings us together as a team. And I like to do that in a fun way. So our biggest thing is tacos. And typically on Tuesdays, that's when everybody is here. We don't all work the same days in the studio, but on Tuesdays, everybody is here. And so I will treat everybody to Taco Tuesday. Our favorite restaurant's right across the street at the Tijuana Flats, and we all love the tacos there. So we will often have a weekly meeting while eating tacos together. And it's a great way to just, I thank my team by treating them to lunch once a week, and we do the tacos and we all love the tacos. But then we also do goal-oriented meals and things. And so like when we're in the middle of a campaign, for example, with ducks, we make a big board on how many baby duck sessions we want to book. And throughout, as we book them, we cross them off. And as we get to a certain number of duck bookings, so like at 25, it's Starbucks day, and I get everybody Starbucks gift cards. When we hit 35, it's pizza day, and we will all bring in pizza and we'll all have pizza. And so it kind of gives little mini milestones on our way to the big goal of being completely booked for baby ducks. And so it allows us to be targeted. We do the same thing at Christmas. So when we're doing our campaigns over specific seasons or themes, we'll throw in different days like that. But I love to involve it around food. It's just fun because then we get to dine, we get to eat, we get to chat. We have great conversations, and often ideas come out of that too, because we'll be sitting there talking to each other about the things that are happening that week. So I love the idea of incentivizing with food. But it's just a great way to build a team. And we've seen that even with the 4 of us, like when we are able to actually be together in person and we dine together, we might have a drink together, and it solidifies a team when you can do those family type activities together.
You've just brought me back about 30 years, Janine, in my life. I'm in school, right? And we used to be told that the family that pray together stay together. And you've just reimagined that now, that the team that eat together gets success together.
There you go. I like it. The team that eats together has success together. Let's coin that phrase, Ronan. Put it on a t-shirt. Let's put it on a t-shirt.
You need a t-shirt of that. So, Janine, before I ask Brad about outsourcing, just talk to us about, so what happens motivation when you don't reach that goal, right? So let's say you don't reach the goal to get the pizza day. Like, has that happened to you, and how do you lift the team when it doesn't happen, or do you set the goal so low that the team always makes it?
Okay, so we don't set low goals, Ronan. That would be anti-Janine. But we do set achievable goals at the food level. And then we have our stretch goals, right? And so I always make sure that we have something that's achievable within our goal. And then I have a stretch goal to go even further. And so something to reach for. And so that's how. So it's never a demotivation. And if perchance something didn't go right, I would take it upon myself. I'd probably still buy everybody pizza anyways. And just say I've made a change in plans or things like that. But it's never actually happened because of the way I structure it. The Starbucks, the pizza, the tacos, all those types of things happen within the goal that I know we will reach because of the plan that I have for the marketing. But then the stretch goal is a little something different. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So, I'm curious, Brad, right? Because I come from a family business background as well, right? And I'm sure Jonathan can attest to this. So, like in your family business, Brad, where you're all related, right? Or most of you are related. How does like do you do pizza days and things like that, or is it different? You know, because here's what I found, right? So I'm second generation in our business, right? And I always felt that my dad was harder on me than he was anyone else who worked in the business, right? And I'm sure John can probably say the same. Um, about he being the third generation and I now being the dad who runs the business. So, um, how have you guys dealt with this teamwork piece and managed it with the relationships, but also built little goals like Janine has and celebrating those little successes? Or are you like, I think I'm accused all the time of not celebrating the successes, you know, by my team. So I'm trying to figure out, is that a family thing or have you found a solution to that?
I don't think I've found a solution to it, Ronan. Family businesses are weird. From the outside in, people think they're perfect. And why wouldn't you want to work with your family? I bet you get loads more done. You know, I don't have to hire staff to do this job. I can trust the people to do this job, which are all kind of true. But the flip side of this is you're ultimately in a professional environment working with people that you love and you care for deeply, and that sometimes blurring the lines between being a manager and leading a business and being a son, um, or a soon-to-be husband is difficult. So, uh, so running my family business for the last decade has been wonderful and been terrible, all rolled in one. Um, so the celebration piece. So our celebration's always been Florida. That's always what we've worked towards, to go to Florida to have a wonderful time. We love the mouse. We're on first name terms with Michael. So we have a great time. And holidays in general. You know, I've had some wonderful holidays with my team. It's a very weird thing. And up until 2 years ago, you know, we lived together, we worked together, and we holiday together. I spent nearly every waking moment of my life with my parents and my soon-to-be wife, um, in that business and operating it. Um, so those celebrations where every Saturday we'd go out for a meal or we'd have a takeaway. That was a celebration at the end of the week that we all appreciated because it marked the end of our week and we could relax for a
I have a
day.
question. I have a question. I have a question about that. So,
Go on.
so you said it marked the end of the week, right? But let's say you didn't make your targets for that week, right? What did you still do it? Or was this a celebration of reaching the goal, or was just a celebration of teamwork that we all work together for the week and we're going to celebrate regardless of what the performance for the week was?
Yeah, we celebrated it regardless of what the performance of the week was. And if the week was bad, me and my dad would go out for a walk with I mean, if the week was bad or good, me and my father would still go out for a walk with the dog and talk about it. And it was our ability, is our time to be able to assess the week we had, come together, have some family time, shut off from work, and then get ready for the next week. So we always did it, even if we had the best week ever or the worst week. It was just our ability to reset, and have some time to come together.
So, Janine, I know we talk a lot about the need to outsource, right? If we don't have time to work on our business and do our marketing and become fully booked, that sometimes we need to look at what the tasks we do, right, and break them down to say we need to outsource some stuff here, right? Have you outsourced anything in your business, Janine? And if you have, how did you come to the decision as to what you should outsource?
So I have, in fact, Ronan, and the very first hire I made in my business was a retoucher. And it's been a long time. Rob has now been with me for 13 years. And it was about 2 years into running the studio, I realized quickly, I don't have time to retouch. This is a waste of my time. I don't need to be sitting behind the computer. I can't be out networking. This was before Facebook, really, right? So my way of getting business in was all in-person networking. I didn't have time to do that if I was stuck retouching. And it was tiring. So that was my very first decision, was I need to hire someone to retouch. And so I found Rob. He works for me on a contract basis, 30 to 40 hours a week, and has been for 13 years now. And actually our style has developed together. And so like our designs, our artwork, our magic is just as much him as it is me. And so I'll have the ideas, and then him and I get on the phone and we talk about them, talk about how I need to light them in the studio so he can do what he needs to do when he's adding the magic and things like that. So it's very collaborative, and we design a lot of the ideas together. And then, but now we're actually at the point where we've hit his capacity. He's going now sometimes 40 to 50 hour a week, and it's tiring him out. So now I'm actually looking at outsourcing again, a basic retoucher, so that Rob now can just focus on the digital artwork, the album designs, the magic being added, and hiring another person who can do just basic retouching on our regular sessions that don't require magic or design. And so we're at that point again where we've grown to the point where we've maxed out Rob. And so he can't keep up. And that's become our gating item now, is retouching. So we're at the point of hiring out again. So yeah, things that you don't need to do in order to make, I don't know, the money in your business, I suppose, is things that you can look at outsourcing, or that you can't do, or that someone else could do better or more efficient or just as efficient as you. And so for me, that was easy. Getting somebody to do the retouching and the artwork and the digital design freed me up to photograph more, to market more, and to network more, and to run the business more.
So this podcast is on outsourcing and team building, right? So, and the reason why we put them together is that just because you outsource doesn't mean they're not part of your team, right?
Correct.
So how do you handle the team building within the people that you're going to outsource to? And let's just not talk about Rob in this for a second, because he's full-time working for you, even though he's outsourced, right? That he's a freelancer. But like for the other stuff that you're going to take on, it's probably not going to be, they're not going to be like Rob, where they're working 40 hours a week for you, right? It's going to be, they're probably going to be doing work for other people, right? For the more basic retouching. How are you going to approach the team building aspect with them?
So I think for me, a lot of this comes down to communication. And so as I'm starting to build other team members, and we're actually looking at bringing on another call person as well. And so that person will not be anywhere near full time. It'll be a 10 to 15 hour a week position. It becomes a matter of communication. And that's the beautiful thing about Zoom, is that's how we communicate with Rob, because Rob lives in Tennessee. He doesn't live here. And so we will Zoom regularly all together, so that way we can see each other's faces. And not as often as the four of us communicate, clearly, but that's the ultimate team building, when we talk every day. But to the point that what works for us and what works for our team. I've started doing what Ronan does, and he inspired me to write a weekly email. I'm not as consistent as Ronan, and I need to get better at it, and it's on my list, and I'm trying to work it into my weekly to-dos better. And Ronan's been a great inspiration. You have, Ronan. I'm talking about you in third person like you're not here. You have been a great inspiration to me on the weekly email. So that way I can keep everybody apprised of what's going on, what's inspired us this week, what's coming up. And that way everybody stays on the same track. So I think those weekly emails are huge, and I love that concept. But then even our remote, so like Rob's remote, but at Christmas and some of our other initiatives that we do, I send him the same gift cards that I'll give the girls. So if everybody wins Starbucks here, I'll send him a Starbucks gift card to his phone. I know he likes Starbucks. If it wasn't, I would ask, right? If he doesn't drink coffee, I would find something else. I'm not going to force him to drink something he might not like. So the same thing at Christmas. We do, like a couple of Christmases ago was really funny. We did a big Christmas party, and we Zoomed him in. So every year we do something a little bit funny with Rob, because he's not here, to make him still feel a part of the team, like he's not missing out. And he comes to visit once a year, because he has family that still lives here. So he comes to visit, and we'll go out to lunch and things like that. So you have to be a little bit creative, but I love the weekly email run-in. I thought that was one of the biggest ads that I made this year. And even though I haven't perfected it yet, because I'm not as consistent as you are, and I'm still trying to work in better ideas, it is one of my bigger goals as a manager of the studio this year, is to really perfect that weekly email to keep my whole team together and focused and motivated.
So the other freelancers you take on, like the two new people you're going to take on, even though they may be working for other people as well, right? Because it's X number of hours a week. Will they get this weekly email from you too?
So my thought is yes, but it'll have to depend on who else they'd be working for. So we'll see. I'll leave that up in the air to see how that's going to work. But yeah, I don't see why not. I'm not going to be divulging company secrets in the email. It's going to be mostly like, here's what we're doing for the week, motivational stories, things like that. Client stories, things that I think would be motivational for anybody on the team, even if.
Yeah, I would do that too, because I would include them, because I think it's going to, if they are working for their people subconsciously, I think they'll feel a tighter bond to you, and they will do things. They'll prioritize you without even realizing they're prioritizing you. So I would definitely do it.
Look, I'm taking notes in our own podcast, Ronan. Isn't that great?
There we go.
Ronan, I have a question for you, right? Because obviously we're talking about outsourcing and team building, and part of team building is hiring. So at what point, and Janine's obviously been talking about growing and she's looking to hire a phone person and outsource more editing. We've seen studios where they're overstaffed, and we've seen studios where they might be getting to that point in time where they need to hire. So two questions. First question is, how do our listeners know when they should hire or outsource, and what should they hire for or outsource first?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question, Jonathan. So let's deal with what you should outsource first. So for me, if you take your clients, right? If you take your clients and you examine all the touch points that we've talked about before in the client journey that you have with your client, right? The client facing stuff, I think you shouldn't outsource. Because if you're going to build rich relationships, we say there's riches in the niches, so we're not talking about money, we're talking about rich relationships, right? Because it's when you form rich relationships, that's when those clients come back over and over again and become a referral marketing engine for you, right? Well, then you as the business owner, it's your job, right? Or if you can't do it, you got to have someone else in your business who does it, or preferably all of you, that you create those rich relationships with your client. So I used to have a process years ago when we had photographers with this in our Ways to Go program, where we had a code for different activities to track your activities. If it's customer facing, put a CF against it. And if it's not customer faces, put an OP against it. Or an OS, I think it was. So the OS stuff is the stuff you start with outsourcing. And often as artists, the first things you'll come across is the stuff you love to do, right? So those of you who love editing, right, that's not customer facing. So that's one of probably the first things you're going to outsource. And that might hurt you, because you might say, well, nobody knows my art like I do, and nobody can retouch my art the way I do, and because I have the end vision. But you know what? If you actually track the time you spend on it, and if you know your rate per hour, I guarantee you're probably spending way too much money on it. Way too much money on it. And what does that mean? It means you're not fully booked because you're not doing the stuff that is client facing, which includes your marketing, right? It includes your marketing, because because you're not face to face doesn't mean it's not client facing, right? Because if you create a campaign or a message or an email or a monthly newsletter or a blog post, it doesn't matter what that is. It's client facing, i.e. your client is going to see it. You don't have to be there for it to be client facing. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you, so obviously you want to keep the client facing tasks or projects or whatever in-house, right? When do you know though that you need to hire versus outsourcing? When do I say, no, yeah, I definitely need someone in studio, if you have a studio, versus I need to find a retoucher?
Well, I think Seth Godin this week, talked about this in that he was given an example where the CEO of Lyft has said to all of his staff, you need to come back to the office, right? After COVID. That he's saying it now, like this number of years later. And Seth was making the point that the world has changed. The world has moved on, that the laptop has made us that we can work from anywhere in a lot of things, right? So unless we're a builder or a carpenter or a painter, but for most other activities, you can work remotely. And most people now who've experienced that want that, right? Like we had it this week alone, Jonathan, ourselves, right? That my team are all working remotely, but 2 to 3 days a month we meet face to face with the office. And even we were going, oh my gosh, this drive, we're stuck in traffic, I've lost an hour and a half to 2 hours. We don't use that hour and a half to 2 hours that we waste in traffic to, go on a holiday or watch a movie. Like we use that time to work, to do something more. So it's actually wasted time. And we're also happier when we don't have to sit in traffic because we find it frustrating. So the point I'm making is that when do you know? It's not only when do you know, and it's not only what do you outsource, but it's about being a modern leader. And Seth talked about the modern leader is the leader who finds a way to deliver both for the client, the company, the employee, all the stakeholders, right? And that by becoming an adaptive leader and developing systems and processes to allow your team work remotely, right, it is a key thing. So, and Janine has found that, right? Janine is a leader in this area in the photography industry because Rob lives, states away from her, right? But she's found a way to use technology to make Rob feel part of the team and to be able to collaborate with Rob to make sure that they're working together to make their experience for their client even better and better and better and better. So I think the modern leader and the modern business owner has to find ways, right? Find ways to manage the team remotely. And I think that will actually add to the business, and it'll add to like when the people who you work with are happy, right? The people you work with are happy, your sales will go up because your clients borrowed your excitement. But if your team are not happy, well, then that excitement is not there, And we've seen that. We've seen that with photography studios where there's stresses for whatever reason, right? And as a result, the boss is stressed, and therefore the team feed off that stress and feel that, and then think that, well, we can still deliver an amazing experience to our clients and they will spend with us. We've heard stories of when things are difficult and the boss is down in the dumps and therefore the team are feeling the stress down in the dumps, that the sales stop happening. That's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. There's a direct correlation between the excitement within the team and the team building that's going on and how the team are interacting with each other and what the excitement level is and therefore what the clients are spending. So that hopefully that answers the teamwork and the outsourcing. I know I'm all over the place a little bit with this, but there is a link between all these things, because you did ask me a number of questions. And the final question you asked me, Jonathan, was, so when do I know when I need to outsource, right? So when you need to outsource, has to be a number of things. The first thing is, if you're not fully booked and not delivering yourself the revenue you require for the business to pay you what you desire, right? Well, then you've got to look at what you're spending your time on, right? Because you probably find you're spending too much time on those activities that we call the outsourcing activities, the OS activities, right? And not enough on the client-facing activities. So that's number one. When you've got a team and you're building your business and you're saying, right, the team is just absolutely packed jam now. There's no more the team can do and deliver the level of service we need to for our clients. What I suggest you do at that stage is, if you are smart and you're using Profit First, is that you start to allocate whatever that team member is going to cost you if it's taken on a new team member, You start to allocate that into your operational expenses, right? That might mean you may need to work a little bit longer yourself as the owner for a period of time, right? Just to be sure that the business then can afford that new team member. And I know a lot of people say the opposite to what I've just said there, right? Some would say, well, like sometimes you just need to take them on because you can't afford not to. And there's a point in that too. I'm not saying that's wrong. But from a financial analysis, the profit first thought process on this is that you should do whatever you can for a period of time, even if that means you have to work extra long for a period of time to ensure that it can afford that. I'll give you another example that's not linked to teamwork, but is the same thing, right? So we have a member and they've been renting a studio for a number of years, right? And their goal is to move to a bigger studio with the facility to have two studios, one for one particular genre and one for another, right? So rather than one studio going all the time, they have two studios going all the time. So what I've got them to start to do is that whatever that building is going to cost them extra over the current, right? That we set that aside in our operational expenses, right? And just understand what cash is going to be required and what impact that cash drain would have on the business based on its current sales level, right? Because if the business can afford that with only having one studio, well, then the risk of being able to do two studios and in theory double our sales, right? Then it's not going to be a problem at all. You might say that's very conservative, but I'm a conservative type of guy. And when it comes to these sort of things, in that I've made the mistake of the curse that is, that turnover is vanity, that turnover is the end goal. I've been in a business where I've gone for the sale and I'm just going to drive the sales. And what happens with not just when I've done that, but when everyone does it, is you add too much overhead, which means that you never make a profit. And we see that in photography studios where the operating expenses are just way out of kilter, right? Way out of kilter. And that's nobody's fault but yours as the business owner and the manager of the business. I feel like I've just hogged the podcast. I didn't mean to do that. It's dangerous to ask me a question, Jonathan.
Well, no, because you always ask questions and you never give your insights, so it's not just your job to ask questions, right? So, yeah, we feel like we hug the podcast when you're asking all the questions.
Yes, Jonathan, you're right.
Well, through the questions and the way I ask the questions, though, also shows some insight because I probe on purpose where I would have the answer, but it's better that others here give the answer, right?
Probe. We're a good team. I think we all equally share in the podcast.
So, Jonathan, talk to us about your experience of outsourcing. I know in your own business, you didn't really outsource most of what you did yourself because it was very niche. You took one element of it, but in the Funny Book Photographer, we have members, right, who've progressed with their business and they've built their businesses towards the next stage of what they define as success, and they've gone beyond the lifestyle stage and they're now starting to build thriving businesses. And rather than taking on another employee, they've decided to outsource some stuff to the Fully Booked. Just talk to us about your experience of that.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, right? So what you're talking about is concierge. So we've had done for you services where we run your Facebook ads for you and build out your marketing funnels and your pipeline and automations as part of that service. And when we launched it, it was really a beta test because we were like, this is going to be interesting. A lot of people want it. A lot of people who want it, it's not the right decision for them. So people have to weigh up in their minds, I think, when they're considering outsourcing. Am I ready for this or am I just being lazy? Because I think for us, our philosophy is that you need to know how to market your business yourself. You need to understand the fundamentals. That's why for 2 years we resisted offering done-for-you services for our clients because it is our core belief that you have to control your marketing and you have to understand the fundamentals of it. However, like you said, there is a point in time where some businesses, when they're generating X number of figures, 6 figures a year in revenue, and their financials make sense, and they're looking to really scale and grow their business, into perhaps a saleable business where they're doing 7 figures a year in revenue and they're hiring staff, then maybe it's time to look at outsourcing your marketing. But you should still have a fundamental understanding of it. Because the flip side of that is we see people who wanted to outsource for the wrong reasons. And it's like some want to outsource because they have a problem. Their problem is they can't get enough clients or bookings in the door. And they think that outsourcing is a silver bullet. Or they understand they don't know how to get clients in the door. They know that we know how you get clients in the door, but they don't want to learn how to do it because they're being too lazy about it, right? So there's right and wrong time and right and wrong reasons. So it's you have to bear that question in mind when you're considering, should I outsource this or should I not outsource this? Is that fair? Is that being a bit harsh? What's your opinions on it?
No, I don't think. I think that's pretty accurate, and I can see by Brad's face and Janine's face that what we've all talked about today, we're all saying the same thing, just in a different way. So on that note, guys, it's hard to believe that our time is up on this podcast. But if you've enjoyed this podcast, just make sure you click on the subscribe button, and also don't forget, if you haven't done it yet, we have gifted you on the link below access to our course on the 9 secrets, the 9 keys to creating a successful business. So do watch it. I know you've listened to the podcast, but there's even more detail in the course, and we have some worksheets there to help you through that and all that too. So do that. And don't forget to tell all your friends about the Fully Booked Photographer podcast. We've people saying that, just listening to, there was a share this week by a photographer who said, this is leveling up my business, just listening to the podcast. So go ahead, level up your business, become fully booked, and share the podcast, share the love with everybody out there. So from me, goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you later.
See you later, guys.